Let's react to some of your CDL hot takes. I asked you all on TikTok to give me your hottest CDL takes, so that's exactly what we're going to be reacting to in today's video. And we're going to start off with a really spicy one. And it says, my hot take is that Cell, Abe, and Simp are the problem at FaZe. They have changed out their fourth player multiple times and still can't close out Sundays. This comes from Robert. Now, this is an extremely hot take, right? To say that the trio at FaZe, this trio that people are saying is a dynasty, is the problem at FaZe, is obviously a bold statement, but I do think there is some validity to this statement. If you saw recently, Crowder actually said on the Scrap Time podcast that he does with Benjay Nassim that the FaZe trio needs to take some responsibility and accountability for what happened this past season. Now, obviously, Crowder's not saying it's their fault that they didn't win every event, but everyone continues to put the blame on that fourth player on Atlanta FaZe, first Arcides, now Slasher. So what Robert's saying, I don't think is completely faded. I actually think it has some validity to it, but obviously, Cell, Abe, and Simp are three of the best players in the league and have been since they entered the league back in Black Ops 4. So definitely I wouldn't call them a problem, but they do have to take some accountability for them not winning as much as everyone thinks they should. Our next hot take, we're moving on over to the OPTIC side of things, where Patchwork said, I think OPTIC should have kept Ghosty instead of Dashy. Now this one is obviously a very spicy take. Anyone who watches the CDL knows and cannot doubt how good Dashy is. His individual skill and talent is just one of the best in the league. Now personally, I definitely don't agree with this. I do think Dashy is the better player than Ghosty, but what Ghosty was able to bring to the OPTIC team, I do think they probably should have kept him. If they were going to 100% bring in someone like Draza to replace Ghosty, then I do think doing that would make sense. But without that 100% confirmation of someone like Draza or buying out Scrap, I think Ghosty might have been their next best option to pair alongside the newcomer in Pred. I think that three of Shotzzy, Ghosty, and Dashy adding in Pred could have made them a serious contender for next year. But either way, I do think they can end up contending. But based on this hot take, definitely super hot and not one I personally agree with. Let's cool it down a little bit and go to this hot take from Nate that says Joe Deceives is a top 10 sub and should be in the league next season. First things first, to address the second part of this statement, I do believe he should be in the league next season. I don't think that part of the take is that hot. I think Joe Deceives proved that he can earn his spot in this league. But the first part, that he is a top 10 sub in the game, is definitely a hot take and not one that I agree with. Right now in front of me, I have a list of players that I thought of off the top of my head that I would put above Joe Deceives. We have Hydra, Abizi, Pred, Simp, Envoy, Shotzzy, Kismet, Kleenex, Afro, Kenny, Nero, Standy, Vivid, Hook. I would probably say just those 12 or 15 players that I named are above Joe Deceives when it comes to your SMG players in the league. Do I think Joe Deceives could be a top 10 player? Sure, and I think that a lot of players in this league have the potential to move up into the upper echelon, but for right now, I definitely would not put him top 10. Let's go back over to the OPTIC side of things, because of course, any take about OPTIC is going to pretty much be a hot take. Here from Fatfish2859, shout out to you. You said that OPTIC is not going to win a major next year. Now, I think right off the bat, for one, we don't know their full roster, but just knowing that they signed Pred alongside Shotzzy and Dashy definitely makes this a hot take, because Pred is a top 5 player in the league. Shotzzy and Dashy are both top 10 players in the league, in my personal opinion. So bringing in, and just having that core 3, whether they bring in Sib, whether they bring in Kenny, or, you know, any other flex for that matter, that is going to be a good team that can contend. And personally for me, I just think bringing in Pred is enough for them to get a win. Now, obviously, I can't predict the future. Nobody can. But saying OPTIC are not going to win a major next year, I definitely do think is a pretty hot take. Now, this is a very interesting one, and one that I was very excited to talk about. Here from Fluid, they said that Abizi and Simp are top 5 players in COD history. Now, let me definitely start this off by saying Abizi and Simp have the potential and I think are on the trajectory to end up being top 5 players in COD history, but I definitely would not put them there just yet. Off the top of my head, and I think most people would agree, I would say Scum, Prim, Karma, Clay, and Formal are probably your top 5 right now in COD history. Those 5 all have at least one ring, and I believe are the 5 winningest players in terms of major wins throughout the history of Call of Duty esports. Obviously, things were different back then, but you know, the MLG, CWL days, there were more events and more opportunities to win. So I'm not holding that against Simp and Abizi, but I do think those other 5 that I named are so much farther ahead than Simp and Abizi in major wins that I just don't think you can put them there in the top 5. But as I said earlier, I do believe Simp and Abizi can end up in the top 5 all time. And if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more CDL content. Now, this one is a very interesting one, and you will see it when I put it on screen right now. I don't know if this person was joking, but they said Dashy is already top 3 ever. He said, miss me with that ring and that chip. his career performance is clear of anyone besides Scump and Formal. Now, as you saw on the screenshot, I don't know if this was sarcasm. My best bet is either one, this is sarcastic, or two, this is a very, very faded, biased Optic fan. Obviously, Dashy is not top 3 ever. Dashy's not even top 20 ever, 30 ever probably, if I had to guess. Maybe he sneaks in that top 30, but he only has 2 major wins, and he's been in the league for like 5 or 6 seasons now. Now, it's not to say Dashy can't win more and end up moving up the all-time list. Of course he can. And if we're looking at individually skilled players, I don't know exactly where I'd put Dashy. He's definitely up there, but still, even at that, I probably wouldn't put him top 3. So yeah, I don't know if this is sarcastic or not. I really hope it is, but definitely a hot take. And our last hot take for today is coming in from Chance. And no, I don't think this is the commentator Chance, but it says Simp is the best player in the league. Now, right off the bat, if we're looking at the MW2 season, obviously Simp was not the best player, but if we look at the entirety of the CDL era, I would say Simp is up there in probably the top 3 conversation for best player in the league. Obviously, Cold War Simp was one of the highest peaks we've seen out of a player, probably the highest peak. Maybe Hydra from this past season we can compare to Cold War Simp for the CDL era, but for me personally, even if we're looking at the entire CDL era, I wouldn't say Simp is the best. I do think Abizi or Celium has him beat in that department. This past year, Simp had a little bit of a down year, if you want to call it that, although he still played extremely well. And in Vanguard, it was another year where he wasn't the top player on his team like we grew to expect. But either way, I'd still say Simp is a top 7 player in the league last season, a top 3 player in the entire CDL era. So this isn't a completely hot take, but it's obviously a little bit spicy. But yeah, that's going to do it for the hot takes for today. I am going to make a part 2 because there are so many hot takes that I got on my TikTok. Definitely head down to the link in the description and follow me on TikTok if you want to and be a part of videos like this, as well as join the CDL Discord that's linked down below in the description. I'm going to be doing more things and incorporating the Discord into these videos, so make sure to join in there if you're interested. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.